Before I start talking about the blog at hand, I just want to say, don't go harass this guy, because then he's just going to delete his blog, and if there's an investigation, that will interfere with the investigation. I'm mainly just making this video to archive his posts, because I already put in an FBI tip about this guy's previous blog, and it accomplished absolutely nothing except for getting his blog banned, and then he just went and started a new blog. So, thanks guys, protectin' and servin', as always. The last time someone tried to expose a predator online, people harassed him into deleting all of his accounts, and now the evidence is gone, and that's exactly why he still walks among us. So, if you hear a pair of black high-heeled mini boots click-clacking behind you in the middle of the night, that's on you. Okay, so while I was researching this certain true crime case, I stumbled across a very graphic photo of the victim's wounds on Tumblr, and I was like, first of all, how the hell is this allowed? But a picture of a statue gets taken down because the statue has nipples, and also, who is actually liking this and reblogging this? So I went through the likes of that post, and one of the people who liked it was a fellow named The Abstraction of Myself. In fact, he liked that photo so much that when that blog got banned, he made a new blog and reblogged the exact same image. At the time I discovered him, his main account was The Abstraction of Myself, but he also ran 7 other different blogs, which were mostly just him talking about his fantasies. However, it seems like all of those have since been banned, and his new account is called Anatomy of Disorder. There's not really much I can add in terms of commentary here. The posts speak for themselves, so I'm just gonna read what I can of this without getting banned from YouTube, because I already know this video is gonna be demonetized. He doesn't talk much about his childhood, but from what I can gather, it seems like he started having necrophilic, zoophilic, sadistic fantasies when he was in his teens, and he has acted on some of them, although the animals were not alive. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. He gives intentionally vague answers when people ask him about whether or not he's killed a human being. However, he does reference victims in his posts, which could be abuse victims or something even worse. He talks about seeking out vulnerable people who serve as potential victims, and he sees it as a kind of game. He tests himself by seeing how close he can get to a person without snapping and killing them. He claims that he has a female stalker, although he is by nature an unreliable narrator, so it might very well be the other way around and he's actually the one stalking her. But he says that he had a sexual encounter with her where he very nearly killed her. I don't recall him ever mentioning having a psychotic disorder, but he does describe some psychotic symptoms such as hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions. That being said, his urges are still present outside of psychotic episodes. He went into even more gruesome detail about the exact nature of his fantasies on his now banned side blog. I'm taking a risk by even showing you this guy's diary entries, so you can only imagine what his reposts look like. Photos of roadkill, Power Electronics album covers, clippings from Pure by Peter Sotos, gore, and of course crime scene photos galore. There seems to be quite a large community of people who are openly paraphilic on Tumblr. However, he stands out because he's actually acted on his urges. A lot of these people seem to be like woke zoophiles and necrophiles. Like they genuinely think that pedophiles should be accepted as members of the LGBT community. The whole map thing started out as a 4chan psyop, by the way, but people actually take this shit seriously. I agree that pedophiles who have no intention of acting on their urges should be in therapy instead of just being told to go kill themselves or whatever, but that doesn't mean they should be accepted. Side note, do any of you guys remember the rabies pride guy? Because this is giving me flashbacks to that incident. Now, there are a few things that make me suspect that this could be an edgy LARP. However, those things aren't related to the way that he talks about his fantasies. It's more how he's trying to portray himself as this kind of pretentious, well-read, dark academia, sensitive young man, while also wanting you to believe that he's this deranged psychopath. Now, technically, this guy is a narcissist and not a sociopath. He has said himself that he is diagnosed with NPD, and contrary to popular belief, there is quite a big difference between narcissists and sociopaths. This would explain why he is so obsessed with this image he believes that he has to upkeep and his legacy. There definitely have been killers who are obsessed with their image and their legacy, such as Luca Magnotta. However, I think that most serial killers would at least be intelligent enough to not start a fucking Tumblr blog where they brag about all of their crimes. This guy clearly has a very specific audience in mind. We're talking about, like, Red Scare e-girls who are really into Vincent Gallo, and they repost pictures of Balkan guys in ski masks holding a gun to a girl's head. No shade to the coquette girls. You know what, actually full shade? There seems to be a direct link between being really into coquette aesthetics and also being really into, like, far-right men and having weird fetishes like DDLG and also promoting self-harm and eating disorders. Considering he has a fetish for being dominant in many ways, and he's also into girls who cut themselves and have eating disorders, we can safely assume that's why he follows so many of them, and they just eat this shit up. Also, I just want to say, it doesn't matter if you developed these fetishes as a result of trauma. If you are posting about your fantasies online and giving sexually sadistic, deranged men like this jerk-off material, you're part of the problem. I'm looking at you, Belle Delphine. His blog is very aestheticized, like, he'll reblog a whole bunch of crime scene photos, but then he'll pepper in a couple references to Richard Seiken or the Smiths, or post a song that he likes. Now, if he said, "Oh, I've really been enjoying reading Dennis Cooper lately," I might believe him, but Richard Seiken, it might sound like a very unimportant detail, but let's consider Richard Seiken's fan base for a second here. Because they're not serial killers. They're just on Tumblr writing homoerotic cannibalism dog pomegranate poetry. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are chronically online enough to even know what ED Twitter is, let alone remember the war between Ambrose and Lucinda, but this guy's internet persona reminds me a lot of Ambrose/Leech Lifts. Now, if you don't know who Ambrose is, he was an ED Twitter user who pretended to be a 6'1" gym bro with narcissistic personality disorder, and he had Patrick Bateman as his profile picture for a while. His whole internet persona revolved around being a twisted fucking psychopath. But one day he picked a fight with the wrong unicorn, and he was doxxed by members of a forum that shall not be named, and it turns out he's actually a 5'2" trans guy who goes by God Self pronouns. Now, usually I wouldn't make fun of somebody's height, but when you go around harassing random fat people unprovoked and use your fake internet persona to garner a massive audience of teenage girls with a severe mental illness who are all lusting after you, I think a little bit of body shaming is justified. Kinda went off topic for a moment there, but yeah, our friendly neighborhood necrophile here sure has a lot of time on his hands for a 23-year-old guy. I just can't imagine a 23-year-old guy making 9 different Tumblr accounts while also going to college and having a job. But then again, who could get into college or get a job with the kind of digital footprint he has? Frankly, I can't imagine a 23-year-old guy creating 9 different Tumblr accounts, period. Another thing that makes me question the legitimacy of this account is that this guy has every single fucked up fetish in the world. Like, he's collecting the infinity stones of fucked up fetishes, but then he draws the line at pedophilia. Now, there have been necrophilic or zoophilic serial killers who weren't also pedos, but paraphilias tend to come in clusters. So, what do you think? Real, actual, budding serial killer, or Poppy Z Bright fanfiction that got out of hand? Personally, I'm willing to bet it's kinda a little bit of both. Like, it's real, but parts of it are exaggerated. Personally, even if part of this is just pure fantasy, I wouldn't be distraught to see him locked up with Diddy and a smart schoolboy 9 as his cellmates. But that's just me. You know what? Maybe Cannibal Cafe wasn't such a bad idea. Maybe let's just make a dating app where these guys can find each other and eat each other so the rest of us can be safe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Or will I?